Hello again. I hope you enjoyed your strength training workout. Always be sure to do extra stretching if you need to, past the stretches we do, just to keep cooling down that body, etc. But now today, as we just chat and circle talk, again, I want you to know that I'd love for you to email me or text me about thoughts you have on the things we discuss, because that's part of what circle talk is interacting about it, wondering about it, sharing prayer requests, etc. But a few weeks ago, I think we talked about a passage in Matthew 6 that talked about not worrying, and we talked about the Lord's eye is on the sparrow, and He takes care of even the young, or even the little bird, how much more He takes care of us. And I think that whether it's during this different time that we've been experiencing or just regular life, we want security. We want to know that, somebody is there for us. And so today's verse is basically saying God is there for you and He's not going anywhere. My husband often quotes a thought that the only constant is change, right? So no matter what we're going through in life, if it was COVID or not, the only constant thing is change. And yet, in the midst of that, God never changes. His character doesn't change. His love for us doesn't change. All of that. And so the verse we're doing today is based on that. So this is from Hebrews 13, verses 4 through 6. Actually, 5 through 6, sorry. It says, "Make sure that your character is free from the love of money, being content with what you have. For He Himself has said," meaning God has said, "I will never desert you, nor will I ever forsake you." So that we can confidently say, "The Lord is my helper. I will not be afraid. What will man do to me?" So again, it says there, God says, "I will never desert you, nor will I ever forsake you." Now, I wonder if you might remember that verse, because it's related to how we've talked about be strong and courageous, for God goes with you wherever you go. And a verse in Deuteronomy 31:6, let me make sure I have that correct, says that, and also in that same verse, He says, He will not fail you or forsake you. And this verse, the first one I told you about, is in the New Testament. Then the Deuteronomy verse is in the Old Testament. But the God of the Old Testament and the New Testament is the same God. He hasn't changed. He says similar things, all of that. So that's something I like about when you see a New Testament verse and it has like a reference and it says this comes from an Old Testament verse. It's because God doesn't change, and He is saying the same things to people throughout history. And another connection of that, it goes back to another place in the Psalms, and I'm going to quote that one for us again, that said, this was from Psalm 118:6, and it actually 5 and 6, and it said, From my distress I called upon the Lord answered me and set me on a rock. The Lord is for me, I will not fear. What can man do to me?" So you'll recognize that that's the same thing that the New Testament verse said. It just quoted it again. And so it says, people back then, they were crying out to the Lord in distress. So the human nature, we haven't changed for, 2,000 to 6,000 years. And our nature hasn't. And God's nature has never changed. We're sinful. He's holy. He forgives. He never changes. He never changes. He will never leave you nor forsake you. Something I've been kind of just dwelling on too, because I don't like uncertainty. And so I'm thinking through the future of classes opening or this or that or not. And I don't like the uncertainty. But I know that God will never leave me nor forsake me. He's figured it out already. So whatever that means for you, what are you uncertain about? What do you feel unsecure about? Do you want to know someone is there for you? And I would encourage you. God says, "I will never leave you nor forsake you." We can be content because of that. And the other quote was, "The Lord is my helper. I will not be afraid. What will man do to me?" So, I know there was a lot of different references in there, and I'll put those here in the video. But just know that the God of creation, from the beginning to the end, doesn't change. And He wants us to just remember that and walk forward one step at a time by faith in Him. So, important part of our community. We love you very much. See you soon. Bye.